Being a powerless mutant sucks. Not because you did not get teleportation, healing, or Cyclops-style optic blasts that punch holes in your problems instead of melting them. It sucks because you still get the mutant treatment, with none of the mutant protection. You're still on the hate list, still on the watch list, still on the lab wish list. When the door kicks in, you are not a superhero. You are a cautionary tale with a pulse. Jubilee after M-Day, Beak with a permanent monster face, Cypher the guy who brings words to a gunfight.
This content's for entertainment. Comic continuity is too broken anyway.
Beak is what happens when your body decides to cosplay as a nightmare before your brain gets a vote. His real name is Barnel Bohusk, and his mutation gave him hollow bones, a beak for a nose, feathers instead of skin, and the social charisma of a dumpster fire at prom. He looks like someone tried to draw chicken from memory during a panic attack. And the worst part, his abilities do not match the visual horror. He cannot fly, he cannot shoot anything, he does not have super strength, telepathy, or even a cool catchphrase. What Beak got was the appearance of a monster and the skill set of a participation trophy. Imagine waking up one day and your reflection is just feathers and regret. You are still you inside. Same thoughts, same dreams. Strangers stare. Kids call you a freak. Parents pull their children closer like you are contagious. Not just stare, film you, post you online with captions like, "Look what I saw at Starbucks." Your face becomes a meme, proof that mutants are dangerous, while you're just trying to buy coffee without being assaulted. And other mutants at Xavier's Institute, the place that's supposed to accept everyone, put you in the special class, the remedial mutant track, the mutant equivalent of being told you are not good enough for the varsity team. Beak made friends with Beast because Beast understood what it's like to look like your mutation was designed by a cursed generator. But even that friendship got weaponized. Cassandra Nova mind-controlled Beak and forced him to beat Beast nearly to death with a baseball bat. The bat was a gift. The guilt never left. So Beak gets to live as a walking reminder that mutation is not a superpower lottery. Sometimes it's just a cosmetic downgrade with a hate crime target painted on your back. And when you look like a threat but cannot do anything threatening, people do not give you the benefit of the doubt. You don't get to hide, you don't get to blend in. Your body became evidence that mutants are scary, and you cannot even use that fear to protect yourself. And just when you think being visibly mutant is the floor, the universe reminds you it has a basement. Because some mutants do not just look powerless, they actually lose the one thing that made the suffering almost worth it. Jubilee used to shoot fireworks from her hands, pyrotechnic energy plasmoids that could blind, distract, or in the right conditions, detonate matter at the molecular level. It was flashy, it was useful, it was hers. Then M-Day happened, and Scarlet Witch said no more mutants, and reality obeyed. Jubilee woke up powerless, not weak, not nerfed, completely depowered. And here's the part no one talks about. Losing your powers is not like losing a job. It's like losing a limb that nobody else can see. Your entire identity was built around being a mutant. You survived because of it. You fought because of it. You belonged because of it. And now, you're just a person who used to be special, stuck between two species with neither one claiming you. Humans still see you as a mutant. You were on the lists. You were in the news. You fought Sentinels, dealt with Magneto, survived apocalypses. That does not just evaporate because your powers did. The internet does not forget. The databases do not update. You're still flagged at airports, still watched by Sentinels, still on every target list. Your powers are gone, but your criminal record as a mutant vigilante is permanent. And other mutants, some pity you, some are relieved it was not them. Some quietly wonder if you are contagious, like depowering is a virus and getting too close might cost them everything too. So they keep their distance, polite but distant. You are no longer part of the team. You are someone they used to know. You are a ghost haunting your own life. Jubilee fell into depression. She ran a halfway house for other depowered mutants in Queens, trying to help people process the same nightmare she was drowning in. She became a political activist, shouting into the void that depowered mutants still deserve rights and safety. But activism does not fill the space where your powers used to live. It does not replace the knowledge that if danger showed up, you could fight back. Now when danger shows up, you are just in the way, a liability, the person everyone else has to protect while they are busy fighting the actual threat. You went from asset to baggage in one cosmic rewrite. And it gets worse, because you are still a target. Omega Red kidnapped her, literally snatched her off the street because even without powers, she was still Wolverine's kid, still useful as bait. She got hurt, badly, and there was nothing she could do except survive and hope someone stronger showed up to save her. That is a depowered mutant curse. You lose your abilities, but you do not lose the enemies. You do not lose the history. You just lose the one thing that let you survive being on those lists. So Jubilee had to rebuild, not as a hero, not as a mutant, as someone trying to figure out what identity even means when the thing that defined you gets ripped away by a reality rewrite you had no say in. And if you think that is bleak, let me introduce you to the mutants whose powers were never impressive enough to lose in the first place. The ones who had abilities that translated to "please protect me. I brought a vocabulary to a gunfight." Doug Ramsey could understand any language, not just French, Mandarin, or Klingon. He could read body language, computer code, alien syntax, encrypted files, cultural subtext. If it communicated, Doug could decode it. His codename was Cypher, and he was the most useful mutant nobody wanted to protect. Because here's the problem. Omnilingualism is an intelligence power in a universe that rewards punching. The X-Men do not need a translator when Wolverine can just stab the problem until it speaks English. So, Doug just got treated like the tech support guy. Essential when the plot needed him, ignored when the fighting started. And Doug knew it. He knew his power was not flashy. He knew he was not the heavy hitter, but he still showed up. He still trained. He still tried to prove that intelligence and communication could be heroic, that you do not need claws or optic blast to matter, that words, communication, understanding could be just as valuable as violence in a world drowning in it. Then he died. Shot. Just shot. A bullet. No dramatic showdown. No epic sacrifice. Just a kid with a non-combat power standing in the wrong place when the violence started. He threw himself in front of Wolfsbane and took the hit because his body was not bulletproof and his power could not stop a trigger pull. The New Mutants mourned him, Magic especially, but outside that team, fans shrugged. Writers moved on. Doug became a footnote, the mutant who died because his power was not useful enough to matter. That is the Cypher curse, being essential without being valued. Your ability is critical when the plot needs information, but when danger shows up, you are treated like a liability. The enemies do not fear you. The writers do not give you plot armor, because your power is not cinematic enough to justify your survival. You are not weak. You are just not violent. And in a world where the solution to most problems is lasers, claws, or explosions, I can decode this is not a battle cry. It is a death flag. Doug got better eventually. Krakoa brought him back, and suddenly his power became god tier because he was the only one who could talk to the island itself. He became the voice of Krakoa, the political operator. He went from joke to kingmaker. But that does not erase the years he spent being treated as expendable. That does not undo the trauma of dying because nobody thought to protect the translator. Which brings us to the systematic nightmare, because the problem is not just individual bad luck. The problem is that the entire mutant world is built on a hierarchy that punishes anyone who does not fit the combat model. M-Day did not just depower Jubilee, it depowered thousands. 98% of mutants woke up human. The Xavier Institute emptied out. Kids who had been training to be heroes got sent home to families who might not want them back. Some of them were medically vulnerable again, conditions their powers had been compensating for, now suddenly life-threatening. Imagine being diabetic, your mutation keeping your blood sugar stable for years, and then waking up in a coma because Scarlet Witch had a bad day. And the world did not care. Depowered mutants did not get sympathy. They got erased. The media stopped covering them. The government stopped tracking them unless they were still useful as lab rats. Even other mutants started moving on. Krakoa happened. New teams formed. The future belonged to the powered. If you were depowered, you were yesterday's problem. A tragedy people acknowledged for one news cycle and then forgot. Even among mutants, you are now other. The X-Men move on to the next crisis. The fight continues, just without you. You are a civilian again, except civilians were not on the front lines when the Sentinels attacked. You were, and you survived. But survival does not mean you get to stay. And here is the cruelest part. Powerlessness does not make you safe, it just makes you defenseless. You are still on the lists, you are still in the databases. Extremist groups still remember your face, labs still want your DNA, and when they show up, you cannot fight back. You just hope someone remembers you were worth saving. Beak got depowered on M-Day 2. His body reverted to human. No more feathers, no more beak. And you think that would be a relief. Finally, he could walk down the street without being called a freak. Except he had already lived years as a target. The trauma did not evaporate with the feathers. The knowledge that the world had hated him for something he could not control was still there. He had just been hated for existing wrong. That is what powerless really means. It's not about abilities, it's not about being marked, about being labeled, about living in a world that will punish you for being a mutant whether you have powers or not. The real curse is not the lack of power, it's the lack of agency. You do not get to choose how people see you. You do not get to choose when danger shows up. The world decides that for you. And if the world decides you are not powerful enough to matter, you become collateral damage with a name no one bothers learning. So here is the thesis. Powerless mutants are not tragic because they are weak. They are tragic because they proved the whole system was never about strength. It was about control, about fear, about deciding who counts as a person and who counts as a problem. Jubilee lost her powers and realized her value to the world had been tied to what she could do, not who she was. Beak looked like a monster and learned that appearance is enough to justify hate, even when you are harmless. Cypher had a brilliant power and died anyway because intelligence is not cinematic enough to earn protection. They were all mutants, they were all marked, and whether they had powers or not, the world treated them the same, as threats, as tools, as expendable. The saddest part is not that they suffered, is that they kept trying. Jubilee rebuilt her identity and found new ways to fight back. Beak made friends and survived guilt that should have destroyed him. Cypher came back and turned his underestimated power into political dominance. They did not give up, even when the universe made it clear their powers did not matter. They chose to matter anyway, and that is more heroic than any optic blast or healing factor. Because being a powerless mutant is not about losing abilities, it's about losing the illusion that abilities were ever the point. The point was always surviving a world that hates you for being different. And if you can do that without powers, without protection, without anyone believing you are worth saving, then you are not powerless. You are not the kind of hero people write movies about. So yeah, being a powerless mutant is not boring. It is being the scapegoat in a war you did not start, holding a weapon you do not have, waiting for a rescue that might not come. If this video made you grateful you are not on any government lists, hit the like button, subscribe for more mutant suffering with a side of sarcasm, and drop a comment. Which powerless mutant got the worst deal? Because if you ask me, they all did. Hard cut.